Hi! I'm Barb.
And I'm Alex.
And we're Enchanterium. In today's video, we'll be making the second doll in our SHINee Tribute meets MERMAY mini-series, Princess Atlantis. I know that the previous doll was named Atlantis, but tell me that you don't know a person that shares your name. Say, 12... Don't you speak a word on this, though. Anyway, if you haven't seen the first Atlantis, make sure you do right after watching this one. Before we jump into the custom, I just wanted to remind you that plushie Noreen is available for pre-order till 11th of June. This is your only chance of getting an Enchanterium themed plushie, and she will never be back again after this promotion. So grab one while you have the chance. Let's get to the custom now.
As we promised on the previous video, today we're going to customize Jane Bullettle. I think she's one of the prettiest dolls in the Monster High line. She has beautiful makeup and color palette, her hair is super soft even when damaged like on our doll, and I just love her design. We need a blank canvas, so I'm quickly preparing her for customization. While I'm cutting her legs off, let me tell you a bit more about the idea for this doll. Her design will be inspired by the third location, colors and fashion in the Atlantis music video, so a lot of blue, purple, pearls, glitter, and a fantasy royal look. We started our last doll from doing the human form, and this time we're going to switch the order and start from the mermaid form. We like to think that Atlantis is a human that can turn into a mermaid by meeting Princess Atlantis, who is a mermaid that can turn into a human to explore the Earth with Atlantis. If that makes sense. I also want them to have a lot of contrasting features. For example, one has straight hair, the other will have curly hair, and that kind of stuff, kinda reminiscent of the original concept. To make the legs detachable, I'm gluing magnets to her torso and legs, first filling the torso with aluminum foil. My love-hate relationship with hot glue makes me think that it's better to secure the magnets with epoxy sculpt, so I'm applying a small amount of the clay to the legs and trying to fill the gap between legs and torso. To do the mermaid tail, I'm using the same 3D sculpted pelvis/booty thing I made in Blender and gluing a magnet to it. I'm going to construct the tail the same way as for the Atlantis tail, using wire, medical tape, hot glue, fluffy yarn leftovers from making hair wefts, aluminum foil, and pieces of cotton.
This time the fin will be made out of glittery heat transfer vinyl and fabric. I cut out Alex's design on the Cricut and I'm going to weed out the excess. It can be a very soothing and satisfying process when the pattern finally gets revealed. Welcome to my pressing mat, where my tiny iron Jerry lives. He pees on the mat sometimes, but I'm not mad at him. He had to go to the small appliance doctor recently, so we're gonna give him a break and use the big iron to apply the vinyl. To make the fin a little bit more stable, I'm bending a piece of wire to hide it in the shape of the fin. I'll use some blue cotton as the base, and with Alex's help, I'll hide the wires under the vinyl while I stick the stencil down. The foil has a bit of adhesive to keep the design in place. Using a protective cloth, I apply heat to the vinyl to bond it to the fabric. The real sparkle can be revealed by peeling off the adhesive foil. I pressed the small fins on the fabric the same way. To line up the other side, I asked Alex to hold the piece up on a piece of plexiglass, so the light shining through would allow me to see the outline of the design on the other side. We can now press that too, hopefully in frame. Again, the small fins are done the same way. So shiny! The last step is to trim the excess of the fabric following the outline of the fin. It turned out quite nicely while being relatively easy. I started making the rest of the tail by adding the fin to the base, but I realized that I have to actually drape the sleeve on the base first, so I removed the fin. Thankfully the glue didn't bond the parts and it came off easily. I'll be using this deep blue velvet that I once bought 5 meters of for a dress for myself, and I must have done the calculations wrong because I made a skating dress, a midi skirt, both human-sized, and I still have a bunch left over. I'm pinning the fabric at the back and marking the seam line with an erasable pen. I also marked the front center line to have a guide on where to fold the piece. After I sew it shut, we can try it on the doll to check for any adjustments. I had to open the seam at the top a bit to fit over her butt, and it was hard to pull on since the fuzzy side was facing the fabric of the base, so there was a lot of friction. I trimmed the excess and decided to take the sleeve in at the bottom just a little bit to make it fit tighter. With the adjustments sewn in, I can turn it to the right side. Putting it on was easier now as the wrong side is nice and smooth. We can get back to the fin now. I cut slits on the side of the sleeve and rolled it up to expose the base. I rewrapped the wire around the base and add some strategic hot glue blobs here and there. I trimmed the end of the sleeve into a V and stick it down with hot glue as well. Bottom done? Let's address the top of the tail. I debated myself whether to hem the top or not, since the velvet won't fray and a hem would add a lot of bulk, since the fabric is pretty thick. I decided to stitch the back up by hand to fix it on the base forever, and when that fit correctly, I faintly marked where the tail should end and carefully cut it there. The velvet is pretty slippery, so working with it wasn't easy. It kept falling out of my hand. But in the end, we managed to make a blue, shiny tail.
We did a test run of the fin with gold glitter vinyl and came to the conclusion that it looks better with painted edges, but first I'm going to add a little bit of fabric paint to the cotton part. We still want it to sparkle a lot, but honestly it's hard to look at it when it's all covered in the same amount of glitter. The paint on the edges helps your eyes focus on the glitter in the middle and not be overwhelmed by so many tiny spots. To decorate the tail, I'm using the same vinyl glitter and also sequins we still have from doing our first merman Armand. I'm also adding some blue half pearls and hexagonal iridescent nail decorations. We have this pearl string we received from one of our swap partners a long time ago. We used it for making Bon Clay's coat 2 years ago, and now it's time for it to shine again. I'm wrapping it around the tail and securing it with hot glue. Her top is going to be sculpted with epoxy clay as we need something thin that can look nice under her human clothes. My idea for the top is to make something you can't really do with normal clothes on this scale, so I'm sculpting 2 separate pieces, leaving the center part uncovered. After it's finished, I'm moving on to the blushing. I'm adding a lot of pink to the hands and chest, and then using blue and pink pearlex powder to make the body shine. I did 3 layers of this treatment, spraying with Mr. Super Clear in between. Then I'm taking care of the top again, painting it with dark blue paint and applying a coat of UV gel dry top. It needs to be set for 60 seconds in a UV lamp, so it's time for a tan. Now I can wrap on the chameleon powder and apply the second layer of dry top coat. She's a mermaid, and I can't miss the opportunity to paint some magical tattoos. I'm doing a quick sketch first, and then going over it with white metallic paint mixed with pink pearlex powder. I chose to paint a lot of dots to go well with all the pearls on her tail. I added a bit of color to the tattoos using watercolor pencils and also painted her nails. She is an underwater princess, and she deserves a crown. Barb modeled and 3D printed this headband, and I'm going to decorate it with toothpicks. It's a very simple crown making method, but I think that the end result always looks powerful and elegant at the same time. I'm using glittery sequins, pearls and half pearls to decorate it and to cover all the hot glue mess. Simple but striking.
The main inspiration for the outfit and this whole other concept of the doll really was Key's flowy shirt and the glittery purple vest. Absolutely gorgeous. Both the clothes and the boys in the MV, that is. I'm using a pattern from Requiem Art Design, starting with the shirt. I cut the pattern pieces out of white cotton with my rotary blade and cutting mat. I start by putting in the darts in the front bodice, followed by adding the back pieces at the shoulders. A simple stand collar is next, followed by the sleeves. I traced the gathering lines with a removable pen and put in a long basting stitch to achieve the poofiness. I added the cuffs to the bottom of the sleeves before I attached the sleeves to the bodice, and gathered the tiers to roughly match the cuff's length. Then I eased the sleeve into its place in the bodice. We can now close the sleeves and side seams. Let's flip it right sides out and try it on. A pair of tweezers may come in handy when turning the sleeves. While the shirt is on the doll, I'm going to fold one of the edges in and mark where it lands, so I know where to hem the back. I'll simply stitch down the length of this edge. I didn't want to add bulky snaps, and I don't have Velcro, so I'll use the bead and loop method again. It's a bit more time consuming to make, but it pays off with how elegant it looks. I used some pearl beads as buttons to match the whole aesthetic, and stitched them down in a row on the unhemmed part of the shirt. A not so transparent anymore elastic string thing will make the loops. I mark the button positions on the hemmed edge and make the loops with a needle and thread. It has to be put on with a pair of tweezers, but damn, it looks cute. I only added 5 buttons because I knew I would be trimming the shirt down the line, because it's time to add the vest. I cut the pattern out without the seam allowance, since I wouldn't be actually sewing it. I'll try to wing it by just cutting it out of another color of glitter vinyl. I tried to skip the darts, but realized it wouldn't fit well, so I cut them out but simplified it a bit. After a while of fiddling about with it, I pinned the vest in some strategic spots and tried to gently stick it with Jerry. I took the shirt off to give it a proper press. As promised, I trimmed down the shirt and secured the freshly cut edges with fray check. This is how it turned out, and the sparkle is amazing. For the bottom, at first I had a pencil skirt in mind, inspired by the Fenty skirt I saw Wendy from With Wendy recreate a while back. Before I say it, let me say it, it's so ugly. Garbage, garbage! This wouldn't be proper for a princess. Next up, I tried making trousers with a hollow glitter transfer vinyl scale design. They turned out okay, but a bit bulky since the fabric was thick. I had a hunch that shorts would look better, so to test that hypothesis, I chopped down the legs, and I was right. Let's recreate them in this purple denim. Sewing pants is easy, and you've seen me do it many times, so forgive me for not giving you a detailed instruction this time. Similarly to Atlantis' trousers, I added some stitches to imitate the fly and the pockets. They fit pretty well, and have the same button loop closure at the back.
To finish the outfit, I'm gluing a few small half pearls on the vest and on the sides of the pants, just like Tamin has on his pants in the MV. Let's finally take care of her head. To reroot her hair, I'm using nylon fiber in colors Oxford Blue, Atlantis, Dewdrop, and 2021, all from the Doll Hair Emporium. Using acrylic paints, I'm coloring the head, marking where each color will go. When the paint is dry, I use a needle cut at an angle and poke it with a bit of hair into the head. And this is how it looks after a few hours of rerooting and watching anime. I love this color combo, it's beautiful and it looks like ocean waves. To secure it, I'm using universal polymer glue. My first attempt at doing the face was not bad. I kind of liked it, but it was not the expression I wanted for this doll. She looks sexy, but in a provocative way, and this is not the vibe this time. I also didn't like the blue tones I gave her on her forehead, she looks cold and unhealthy. After wiping off her face, I started one more time. Instead of blue blushing, I'm giving her more pink tones, because I think it will be a nice contrast between the skin and her blue hair. I'm also changing the blue lips for a more natural looking color. And just like Atlantis, this girl needs to sparkle, so I'm adding a lot of pearlex powder as a last step on almost every layer. When I'm not sure about the eye placement, I'm starting with brows. I don't know why, but this method helps me visualize where the eyes should be. This face mold has a very narrow forehead, so I'm placing the eyebrows low so the face is balanced. I chose narrow eyes with a calm gaze. I wanted her to look sexy, but not evil or confident sexy. The location in the Atlantis MV that inspired us to make this doll is placed underwater, and it looks magical and calm, like a lost land on the bottom of the sea. I want her to look like something that you can dream of, but it's not real, not reachable, but everybody knows it. Like a peaceful goddess. I'm brightening her whites of the eyes with a white watercolor pencil and adding some highlights to the cupid's bow and the tip of the nose. On the darker complexions, I like to play a bit more with the color because they tend to reflect light in a beautiful way. I'm adding blue pastel to the corner of her lips and eyes and applying light purple pencil right above her brows. Because I don't have a light purple pastel and I want this color there. I decided to try a different type of lashes than I usually do. Some of the lashes are going to be facing down to create a half-open eye look. I've seen many doll artists do that, but it's a first try for me and I was a bit excited but also scared. White pencil can have a problem with building the opacity, so I'm going over it with a white acrylic paint. I'm also defining the lashes with white paint and treat them as a guide for a black pencil. I want her eyes to look magical, so I'm adding a lot of catch lights to the irises. A few details on the brows and lips can also be a good idea. The other Atlantis has a face full of tiny freckles, so to contrast her, I'm going to give this doll a few dark beauty marks. I felt like leaving her face without any paintings would be a waste of mermaid potential. I was not sure what to paint, but then Barb came into my room and said that the ornament above the elevator's door looked like a shell, and maybe it would suit her. So a shell it is. I'm first drawing it with a watercolor pencil, so it's easy to correct mistakes. I'm adding a lot of pearlex powder to her eye makeup and the tattoos, and after a layer of MSC, I'm painting over the sketch with a metallic paint. Just like on her body, I added a lot of dots to resemble the pearly theme of the whole doll. Off camera, I changed her pupils for darker color and made them larger, so she looks more calm and dreamy. This time, I have figured out how to show you how sparkly her face can be in a good light. Now let's come back to my favorite part of her design, her hair. I poured hot water over her head to make the hair lay flat. I made sure the fiber is wet but not dripping and started to curl the hair. I'm using plastic straws and bobby pins for this. Some of the curls are shorter because I didn't have enough long straws to do the whole head with the same length, but I think I can work with it. I had to make 2 big curls because I ran out of the thin straws, but you know, natural curls come in different shapes and sizes too, so I'm not really bothered. I gave the head another boil wash and to set the curls, I poured ice cold water right after. I didn't record it because hot water and camera is not my favorite combo. You know, I like to focus on pouring boiling water exclusively. When the hair has dried, I'm detangling the curls. That's not a very natural look, so I'm creating 3 or 4 strands from one curl. And this is how it looks. The only thing that is left is to trim the damaged and straight ends and make sure the hairstyle looks good.
This is how she turned out. We asked you on Instagram if naming 2 dolls with the same name would be alright, and we got some mixed responses, with suggestions like spell it differently, which didn't really seem to work for Atlantis, or add a modifier, which we settled on. We really didn't feel good with any other name than Atlantis, so to differentiate between them, this one is Princess Atlantis. I love her nautical feel and the curly hair that resembles waves in the ocean. I think this pair might be my favorite ensemble of dolls we made so far. SHINee has been in our life for a long time, and their recent comeback brought a lot of joy into our lives in these uneasy times. I hope these dolls brought some happiness into your lives too, just as making them did for us.
I'm very pleased with how they both turned out, especially that mermaids are one of my favorite magical creatures, and I mostly blame One Piece for that. I've seen the Atlantis music video hundreds of times, and I'm surprised I still like it. It's never enough of pretty men dancing in underwater locations, right? I was going to ask you what kind of relationship these 2 dolls should have. Lost sisters, reincarnation, friends, family. But it's clear to me that Princess Atlantis is 100% gay, and Atlantis looks bi-curious to me. So, happy early Pride!
Another quick reminder, if you'd like to support the channel, consider getting the Demon Mermaid Noreen plushie. Thanks! Make sure to follow us on Instagram for some sneak peeks and subscribe for future videos. Have an enchanted day, and we'll see you next time. Bye! A simple sand color is next. The sleeves are next. Great writing.
This face has mold.